So thank you so much for accepting my invitation into my podcast, Closer to the Sun. It's been an honor as well as like a dream come true. I'm saying this for everyone because this is a podcast. It's been created by following my gut feeling to uh, to make an offering in which I connect with people who live their life in a way I deeply admire. And that's why the podcast name is Closer to the Sun. And you are one person who I find by serendipity. And our connection is like a mystery for me. Everything I learn from you and all your offerings and teachings, it's like a fairy tale for me. And I love fairy tales. And thank you so much for being here. Mhm.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. It feels very exciting to be connecting like this.
Yes, yes, because in this way we never ever talked. So
Mhm.
So thank you for being here and for your precious time and energy. So my question is, like now I can ask from you questions that what makes you happy these days? What
Oh,
makes you with emotion, like as a mother, like we are in the same shoes in that sense that we have both of us has the same age of
yeah,
children. You have a boy, I have a girl,
yeah.
but since I am a mother, I am so interested in how to live graciously as a mother.
I think that that's a daily and hourly question, probably, with 5-year-olds. And I feel really happy in my mothering when I feel there's a certain level of connection where I'm like, we're really in a flow, and I see that this human being is a human being, and I always try to treat my son like a human being. I think we sometimes treat children like they're less than human, and they are humans that are more connected and more alive and and more tapped in than most. So I feel the most happy when we're in a flow where I can um see and feel that connection he has to himself, that he still has to where he came from. And there's something really sweet about nurturing that in him. I and so I feel very happy when we have these opportunities, and sometimes they're in play, sometimes they're in at this point he can have pretty deep conversations, and he's very articulate with how he's feeling and what he's thinking, and it's amazing, and there's no way that children aren't to be treated like humans because they have the capacity. They might not have the brain development, but they have the capacity um, and the knowing. So um, I also just like him, seeing him thrive in the very like mundane ways of I used to pack his lunch and he had to take scissors to cut something open, and now he can do it, and these little things of where he feels more confident, and um he was your child too was like what we call like a in America a COVID child. So
Mm.
they weren't exposed to a lot of things at the same age as some of their peers that are older. And so seeing him just kind of catch up socially, and he's naturally shy anyway, but making friends and just doing new things. And I really we both thrive when he has an interest and we just dive in together, and like for a month or 6 weeks or 3 months or 3 days, we're just in this soup of what's bringing life and creativity to him. And so following his lead is when I'm the happiest. When I have to, like, of course, they need boundaries and things, but when I have to shift that dynamic for some practical reason, it's way less enjoyable. It's just like a management job.
Yes, I really feel that each child brings a challenge into a mother life. So what was your challenge, what he brought into your life? Like compare
Wow.
your identity before him and now, I guess we shift our identity as well as we grow up as a mother.
Yeah. Well, um, I've been working on changing this story because uh the challenge was real and it was really big for me. I didn't expect nor really desire motherhood in this lifetime. And so just the ask of shifting, and I was an older mother. I'm 47 now. So um, going from breastfeeding to perimenopause is like no joke. um and and then having the energy, and when I don't, not feeling bad about having the energy. But with the identity in the beginning, it was quite hard because I had been um a craniosacral therapist and a, a counselor and a guide for almost 20 years when I had him. And I had clients that I had that long. So there were relationships, many, many, many relationships that had to change, had to pause, or had to stop. And um, a rhythm that I had, like, I remember when he was like a really little tiny newborn, and I was just kind of pacing around the house, and I'm like, "Oh, it's 11 a.m. I'd be seeing this client every Tuesday for 10 years." Like, and just shifting like what was a natural rhythm in my body and shifting a focus. What I did was just stay really present. And I've always valued the practice of presence. As you know, like my um, core teaching of source regulation is about presence in our bodies. And so I'd say that even teaching that came out of that practice, because presence was something that I offered him at all times. And sometimes don't know if I was really even there, but the greater presence of um, him feeling connected to his source and the source. And um, he didn't cry a lot either because of that. I think he just felt surrounded, and I felt somehow assisted or at ease.
Mm.
But I think it was a very hard change for me. Motherhood, the initiation, I really just officially kind of wrapped up what I call an like postpartum time, or that fourth trimester, just this summer, which he's,
Mm.
and I feel like I've transitioned from that space, and it was a slow embracing of motherhood for me. I was doing it, and I was doing it with presence. Um, it took a long time before I was doing it with delight.
Mm.
I think I did it with wonder and curiosity and reverence for what I was doing, but it took a long time to do it with delight.
Mm. I'm really feel for you because kind of I am kind of like the same shoes again. Like I am just 1 year younger than you, and I was experiencing just the same. And again, I really feel now for me it's kind of like closing this fourth trimester, and
Yeah.
I thought it's just like 6 years. It's like it's so long, but it's nice to hear someone else's story like the same.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I still feel like I might have a year of rebalancing my body because I
mm,
don't the hormones and things like and strengthening my pelvic floor and like I think that would count in like real actual like holistic postpartum healing. But
mm,
I think on the emotional and mental and spiritual level, I've come to a place where I can just kind of make that a package and a time and a space that
mm.
existed and being a new one and I'm glad that you're moving into that too because motherhood is an advanced practice and
It
it,
is.
one of the most fulfilling or I don't want to call it fulfilling but rewarding.
Mm,
You know, it's not fulfilling to everyone, but there is a sense of eventually there's an exchange, and I don't know that it's with the child, but it's with nature or creation itself, you know, and there's some kind of reciprocity for us taking our staff and planting in the ground as mothers.
mm. I really feel that. But what we need is really these circles as well, what you create, because without community and without telling stories to each other, I think it's just by an individual, just by ourselves, it's just like we can't experience that kind of graciousness
Mhm.
and joy, only the maybe the wonder and the curiosity, but that is a big step, not
Yeah.
just like doing the tasks, but step forward and see the big picture and being able to slow down.
Yeah, mothering in isolation is, I think, a form of torture. And, uh, and I think it's inhumane. It's inhumane to the mother and the child, really. And it's not the way that nature intends. It's a, you know, it's a byproduct of outdated or faulty cultures really, you know, and we are victims of that. We don't have to feel like a victim, but it's a result of that. And I'm still finding those women that I can link arms with in motherhood. But if we have one or two on each side of us, I think we're lucky nowadays.
Yes, yes. What I looked into is like a family tree. Like I started to look into who was my grandmother and great grandmother, and my niece made this family tree for us. And I don't know much about my great grandmothers, but even just reading their names, it gives me so much. It's amazing how much charge can be in just in a name and how much connection.
Yeah, I agree. I did that dive too in the last couple of years. Yeah,
Mm,
and just calling in all of the there is a lot of unseen support for us, but we have to be supported enough in the physical realm to tap in or receive or feel that support for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you find this your life mission, this craniosacral therapy, and your journey into this field of unknown and mystery and
Yeah.
things.
You know, it feels kind of like I was birthed into it. I experienced a lot of like mystical experiences even very young. Um, I can remember 3, 4, 5 years old, a lot of interaction, like in very specific ways with the world around me that others weren't necessarily experiencing. And uh, I think I was born pretty spiritually driven. Like there was something that welled up in me whenever I tapped into that particular like soft body piece of myself. And I have a very curious brain and curious like um it's not a need to know as much as a drive to just explore and seek. Like I'm not there, I've never had like these real end goals. Like even in school, I would study something for a while and then I would feel a completion and not feel that I needed to complete a degree, but I would go to where I was led next. So in the university days, I really dove deep into different things and even changed colleges and schools based on those kind of taking me. And the last thing that took me was like I started studying like nature in a school to kind of be like a park ranger or something. And that led me into herbalism, one of my teachers, and it led me into a Reiki attunement at 19. And it opened the door of like healing, which I already was familiar with the occult and some of the prophets or channels or and I explored multi religions by then. And I don't think everyone frames healing and spirituality together, but I don't separate those two because it's about the wholeness of our being, and that includes our soul and it includes our spirit. So it was about age 19 that kind of portal formally opened for me. And then I went seeking something else. I had about 6 classes left, and I drove across the country and started seeking um, more more education around healing modalities. And I was interested in acupuncture. I I I remember talking about midwifery, which was interesting because I was fascinated with the human body, but really wasn't interested in motherhood for myself. And really, like, I wasn't interested in children, but I guess I was interested in how we create them, maybe. I don't know, or supporting that portal of coming into the world, which I now understand that is just so important to how we're imprinted in how we move in the world. And I didn't do either of those. I ended up using my hands a lot more, and I went to bodywork school, and in that I found um, craniosacral, and it seemed that I had been doing that most of my life without knowing. So the teacher was like, "You do craniosacral," and I was like, "No, I haven't had that class yet." She's like, "No, I'm telling you, you're doing craniosacral." So when I finally um, kind of tracked down that teacher, I took a weekend private class with her and I was like, oh, okay. And it gave me some kind of um, structure for my gifts where as a teenager having those kinds of sensitivities and feeling and compacted or compounded with um, trauma, it was a little traumatic to be that tuned into other people's bodies and
Mm.
thoughts and feelings, and so I think for me when I found that it was um profoundly supportive for my being, because it gave me a way of not denying my sensitivities and living in them, and boundaries that kept me feeling safe and healthy. So
Mm.
um, it was just kind of a lifelong dominoes into it. I don't feel like it was something I thought to do or chose to do. In fact, I thought to do and chose to do a whole bunch of other things that eventually would pivot back toward
Mm.
that naturally.
Mm. But still, you are very very lucky that many people is just like keep searching and searching and searching and never find anything which really clicks.
Yeah.
And
And I'm still that searcher. Like I'm going back to school for homeopathy this year, so I continue, but it builds upon the same. It's this, it builds upon what I already do and know. I've had many different schoolings in my adult life with this career that just add into um, the toolbox of um, the seat of guide. I'm a guide, and I keep adding tools and not necessarily techniques, but ways of approaching and
mm,
approaching healing. So I am lucky that what we would call it here is like a vocation. It's not a career; it's a vocation,
mm,
and I'm dedicated to that. And I'm definitely aware and appreciative. Many days I'm like, gosh, if I have to go to work, I'm so glad that this is what I'm doing, or that being who I am and helping others with the gifts that I do have, I get rewarded for, and I don't have to sit at a desk or um, do hard physical labor, or split myself between how I'm spending my time and who I really am.
mm,
I have a lot of friends that are artists and musicians, and that's who they are, and then what they have to do for a job to work and pay bills is different, and so they have to kind of like separate themselves in a way from what they're doing and who they are, and I get to like do and be who I am in all the time that I'm spending.
mm,
And that was like another split with motherhood, was like, wait a minute. So I had to figure out how to bring that into how I mother, where I didn't feel like dual identities, but I could be a whole person and my full person and mother at the same.
mm, mm,
And I think I'm still learning that a little bit, and learning that I can be more of that with my son, and he thrives the more that I am like that.
mm. And do you feel that it's been your family that you were able to follow your path, or because of the teaching you find and the good guidance?
Mm. So my family lives on the other side of the country, and I have a pretty extensive, like, it not because of my family, but I experienced a lot of trauma growing up, and so I actually think a lot of it was driven by my experiences and an unconscious, like, running away and running towards simultaneously, um, running away from that and running towards healing. And I don't think in the beginning it was super conscious. Um, and I've had great teachers. My family did give me a strong, we grew up Catholic, and I could see the church from my bedroom window, and I went to Catholic schools. And I don't know that I call myself like, I'm not practicing Catholic, but my parents had a lot of faith they, you know, they prayed, and they were good and kind people, and so I think they also were very supportive parents. Like, we all had different challenges, and they just were able to love us and not give up on us, and help us in our different ways. I have three sisters, so when I say us, I mean my siblings. And so I think they gave me a very strong foundation. Uh, but they didn't understand like what I was studying or doing, or and some of the time I think it even frightened them. Like, what is she doing out in California? And they didn't understand it all the time, but they're extremely accepting. And now they do. Now, 25 years later, it's a different story. But in the beginning, I think it was, and I think about, you know, as a mother now, like what it's like for your child to be that far away and kind of in their own life. And sometimes I was in a lot of, now I talk to my mom like 4 times a week, but in the beginning, sometimes I didn't talk to her for a long time. And so I think about uh, that kind of separation from your child. And of course, she had more than one, but um, yeah, I think that they were as supportive and as they could, but they didn't understand. I wasn't raised in a house where like we did yoga or chanted, or where I was exposed to any of this. Um, although my mother does those things now.
Mm.
Yeah.
How beautiful. Mm. Because what I feel with you is like you have um, you possess so much inner strength and so much alignment really with your purpose and how you live. And because we talk through the net, sometimes I see the background behind you, and even the little details, or even in your website, it's just like so beautiful, and it's just like so the extension of you. And it's just like um, today we were making a little tidiness in our home with my daughter, and she was making tidy the little details, and I told her, see, this is like a really skillfulness when you make tidy the little details as well, not just like the big picture. And that's what I feel with you, like all the little details is in place, and
Mhm.
it's just like so beautiful. And this is what I get with your being in your apprenticeship and studying with you, that somehow the little details in me coming into alignment. And I have to tell you that I've been listening and re-listening many times the recordings, because many times I just don't understand, not because I don't understand the English, but I just don't understand that really uh, um, it's just like so much you give this craniosacral therapy, or the background you bring, it just like an Indian plate. It's just like so many things in it, and it's just like so rich and nourishing. So even just like being in your presence, and you are thinking so radically different from many others, and that's what really brought into your circle, because yes, it's just like amazing how you how you think and how you see the world around you. So thank you for letting me be in your circle and studying with you. It's just like so beautiful.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I knew, like, with that curiosity and wonder, I tend to notice the nuance, those tiny details. all the nuances. And I think that that's what distinguishes the whole from the parts, and it's also what connects the whole and the parts together. And so I don't know why I think the way I do, but um I do appreciate that I can see the world in my own unique way. And part of my teachings are not and you probably know this by now, but like are not to get others to think how I think, but to think how they think, and to that your intuition works the way your intuition works, and that um how your system operates is uniquely you. So I think when we do a terrible disservice when we like bring it into like a specimen of anatomy, because every body is different and every body works differently even though we have the same part. And I think every being is like that, from the very physical to the very subtle, extended layers of who we are. We're all so unique. And my pleasure and joy is when I can assist others in sitting in their own unique and specialness with confidence and strength and motivation to be that.
Mm. Mm. You do it so skillfully and so filled with so much heart and love. And I didn't know you before you became a mother, but right now I really feel that mothering essence,
Mm.
and I'm just very very much appreciate what you give and what you radiate out. Thank you, Katie, so much.
You're so welcome. It was really nice to have this conversation and connect here. And um, I, I really appreciate the gesture of inviting me and um, providing space for whatever needed to be said between us and for us and for whoever listens and your surrounding community. So
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Be well.
Mm.